And then like as you get more involved in the sport and more bought in, it just becomes a non-issue so often. That's
Yep.
my experience.
Yep.
Yeah, people from different sizes having a positive experience in the sport of wrestling,
Hmm.
at their own pace, but that feels comfortable for them. And I think that is a really key piece in all combat sports or all really intense sports, to bringing people in, because sport is a powerful tool to affect people's lives. But if
Yep.
we're like making like the barrier so high to like be able to get into the sport and feel comfortable, then we're losing all the opportunity for these kids to really come into the room and have a positive experience. So I talked a lot about that. I hope that was.
No, no, that's awesome. There is two parts that come to mind because, like, with the process of sport, like this, is so much, and I think it's actually just a culture beyond sport. But we were so fixated on the product, the win, getting to the competition, doing the thing that we often forget about the process. And it's actually the process that is the most important part about getting to the final product. And the way I've expressed it in the past is that the final product, the sport, the actual event, the fight, the match, whatever, that is a celebration of all that work ahead of time. And but you have to put that work ahead of time to be worthwhile to celebrate all that hard effort. But that part gets forgotten about often as well, like the process of, hey, we went through all of this to build the groundwork of understanding like a culture of trust and safety, getting past our insecurities and building confidence, and just like the process of learning a new skill set and learning about ourselves. And that right there gets lost so much because we're so fixated on the end state, and our identity is predicated often for a lot of athletes is about the result of the end state. And that part is hard and that's sad, when the fact is we should be celebrating from the beginning all the way through. And it's the process that's the thing that's endemic, or that's not endemic, that is that's impressionable for the athlete carrying forward, because we remember the hard practices. Yeah, we remember the wins and losses, but really it's the process of the practice is what we really sticks in our minds. And that's really important for people to like understand. And again, this is that thing about situation and experience. Like if you haven't experienced that, regardless if it's wrestling, combat sports, or whatever, it's just like the beauty of the process of learning and preparing is something that we should celebrate, because in the long run, the window of competition is really small, but we can be learning constantly. We can be practicing constantly. And that part is beautiful. And yeah, that's well put. There was another part in there I had, I don't know, lost. I'll blame it on head injuries and forget. But yeah, so actually no, it's the issue of dealing. So like consent games are really important because it's about mindfulness. It's about being present in mind, because this issue about consent and making it awkward in contact, like if you are too preoccupied with like, oh, I shouldn't touch in this spot, or they're touching me in this spot, and being worried about like, is this okay or not, your mind is split focused from like the intent of like, hey, they're going to smash me on the mat, or they're going to drive an elbow in my face, or they're going to smash me upside the head with a stick if it's FMA. It's like the presence of mind of like, you have to be here now, shut out the world, and focus, hyper focus on the intent of it. Because in wrestling, it's you on the mat with you on the mat and the referee. In MMA and boxing, it's you in the ring with the other fighter and the ref. It's always just like, you have to be here now. And teaching that mindfulness is a big part of like understanding, as I found, with like getting past that awkwardness of like, if you're so focused on the gender issues and the awkwardness, you're not being fully responsible to yourself and accountable to yourself. And also, you're not being responsible to your training partner, because in the team aspect and anything is that you're not trying to beat them in the gym every day. You're trying to support them in their process, and you're being deficient and not helping them be a better athlete when you're not being present and accountable, like saying, hey, do the job, do the thing, be here now. And that bit of mindfulness is really hard for a lot of people and a lot of athletes. And I think if we spend more time, and this sounds more emotionally driven and emotionally charged, and like it's psychology, when the fact of the matter is there's so much sports psychology that isn't talked about, that deals with life outside the mat, off the mat, out of the cage, out of the ring. That our window of competition is so small that we have to like develop those skills to deal with life thereafter. And one of those big things has to be mindfulness of being presently current in the now, of let's do the task, let's be there. And that, I think that is really important, especially with the life and world that we're at with. We have a little rectangular anxiety device that forces us to be like disconnected and like have a window span of 5 seconds when we should be focused on let's have the present conversation here. Let's be here, mindful here, and be here now. So I don't know if that's been your experience.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think that's why one of the reasons why I love the sport so much is because you have to be present. It demands you have like a focused and present mind. You can't be thinking of like, what do I have to do over there? What do I have? Like, how does my hair look? Like, was I too nice earlier? Like, whatever. Like, I love it. I love wrestling now for that exact reason why we can just like be present and wrestle. And then like, with that like discomfort on the mat, like some of those things you just kind of work through. And then some of them, like they're like, if you have two kids and one kid just feels so uncomfortable wrestling, another kid, like it's I feel like in the past as an early coach, I'd be like, just get over it. You're going to be fine. Right. Yeah. But now I'm like, and then after a little bit more understanding of that, I don't always understand everything, right? Yeah.
Coaches are human.
The less we know. Yep. And so I think I'm actually more flexible to the idea of like, okay, like this is somebody who I have a really hard time wrestling with, assuming it's like a reasonable reason. And I would say most times they're reasonable enough reasons, let's figure out something for you to do, because that comfort level in wrestling for the athletes is important, right? And they'll get where they need to be eventually. But if we force it on them, then it's kind of tricky. So like I defer to the athletes a lot of times. And then like as a coach, there's certain things that I'm like, I get in there, I'm like, ooh, this is not a move that I want to show on a young man. Right. Yep. So I'm gonna show it on a girl, or I'm gonna have one of the other athletes show it on another athlete. And it's just like recognizing that, sometimes there are these boundaries that are uncomfortable, and sometimes you can just kind of like move through them seamlessly. Sometimes you respect them and you like don't make it you don't have to make it a big deal, but you stay in the area that is that feels respectful and comfortable to you or to the athlete. And then like, as you get more involved in the sport and more bought in, it just becomes a non-issue so often. That's my experience.
Yep. Yeah.